Oh, cool. Where's the mic?
It's here.
Oh, okay. So we should be behind the thing?
Oh, okay.
Okay. I was planning on standing up. But, well, how are y'all doing? Good? Enjoying the camp? Good. How many of y'all are from this area, like within 50 miles or 100 miles? Okay, everybody. Except for one.
Where are you from, sir?
Canada? Okay. So before we get started, how many of you are working collaboratively on a product that you're developing with somebody else in the Drupal community? Raise your hand.
Does that include like modules?
No.
Product is like a product.
We're talking about a product. It's really what this presentation is about. I didn't see a lot of hands. Can you do that again? I was distracted by the...
Two,
I think one or two. Okay. Yeah. How many of you would like to or are trying to do that? Several additional hands. Good. So I expected that this would be just a handful of really interested people. It's a very, very defined topic, and so thank you for coming to the presentation. This is a story about it's a work in progress. It's something that we've been working on for a while. And it's something that's worked well for us, so we're going to share with you what's worked well, but we're also going to kind of, pull back the curtain a little bit and tell you about the things where we stumbled, where it didn't work, because I think there's a lot to be learned from the mistakes that we made, and hopefully you can avoid making some of those mistakes as well. Is there any particular topic you would like for us to cover before we dive in? Okay, that's good.
How do I get rich without that working?
How do I get rich without working? When I figure that one out, I won't tell you. All right.
I thought that's what SEO was all about.
Well, it hasn't been for me yet. I'll put it that way.
He's working on it.
That's right. So just to talk quickly about the product that we actually developed. So Volacci, over the last couple of years, has been developing a marketing automation software platform. I'm happy to give you a demo or talk about it after this presentation's over, but that's really not what we're going to talk about today. Is not that tool, but rather kind of how we took what we had started with and joined forces with Azri and made something even better. And so people are leaving already. They wanted to see marketing automation. Come back in an hour. There's actually a BOF in this room in 1 hour on marketing automation and dynamic content. So that's kind of the project that we worked on. But you wanna talk a little bit about
Sure.
the first step?
So Ben and I have known each other for a few years now, in the Drupal community, and we've been exchanging ideas, notes, our pain points of running the organization, our thoughts, what we could do, and we figured out there was a product that he's trying to build, and how do you start, working along. But before that, how do you really choose a partner or a collaborator to work with? It's really about, do you understand who the other person is, the other organization is, and how do you make that jump, It's really a long-term commitment, both in terms of time, money, effort, and opportunity. And what we really kind of said is, you really have to start with a mutual trust and respect, and as you go along, build on it. And that's where it took us a couple of years to get to know each other, trust each other, and respect what we as organizations deliver individually. And then come together to say, okay, let's bring something to the market, and also knowing the idea and how, Volacci wanted to push it out, and our ideas of how we could collaborate. And then when those ideas meet and you build it on a mutual trust and respect, that's when it really kind of takes off. Without that, you just cannot go in and say, okay, I met somebody who's interesting, who has ideas, let's start.
We had a couple of beers. That must mean we're good to go. Let's go develop a product. You know.
So we've known each other at least 3 years now, before we even said, okay, now I think, we can start doing something. That's exactly what it is.
Yep. So the second thing that we really focused on was solving an immediate problem. At least in our case, we didn't come together and decide, hey, we're gonna we're going to figure out something that we want to do. We actually, in those conversations, had come up with a problem that we were trying to solve. Is a product that Volacci was trying to get to market, or an enhancement to our marketing automation tool that we wanted, deeply integrated in with the Drupal platform. So we were solving, immediate problems.
Again, we all have ideas and we have large visions. We want to make money quickly, easily, and who doesn't want it? Even I want it, I'm sure Ben wants it. That's good. But one thing I've learned, I've done my mistakes. Before I built a product in 2008, got funding, crashed. So it was really about, okay, I'm not going to spend 8 months, 1 year trying to build something. And that's what we talked about. Let's build something small, put it out there. People are going to have opinions about it. Those opinions are just feedback and notes for us to improve. We're not going to worry about how many people don't like it. We're going to only focus on people who like it and who are going to tell us how to improve it. And we've put out 4 MVPs out there. First MVP was second or third week into it. So it was, I think, CapitalCamp Austin. Right?
We had one at DrupalCon that we were showing.
And
so the first MVP was kind of integrating a lot of the Automatr functionality into Drupal, so that you could actually see reports and you could look at marketing automation statistics and things in your Drupal application, making it so that a Drupal admin wouldn't have to learn a whole different interface in order to do some pretty advanced marketing things in the tool, and that. We rolled that out in a very. I mean, we were coding the morning of that the floor opened.
Fixing
at
bugs right
fixing
there.
Bugs, and showed it off and really got some interest. One of the things that I learned was that we're going to show this product to a lot of people, and most of them are going to go meh and walk away. And that's what happens with every product. Is that when you first roll it out, most of the time, nobody really understands it or sees what it is, especially if it's something new and unique, which what we're doing is not completely new, but it's never been done in Drupal before. So, but getting that feedback from those people who said, this would be great if it did this, but it doesn't do that, so I'm not really interested. And you want to go, but 6 months from now we'll have it, or next week we'll have it, or whatever. And sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. But you want to, just get that feedback and then build that into your next MVP, the next release.
So we've had 4 releases at different camps, maybe something today too, if we can really make it work.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea of MVPs, right? Yeah. And again, it's really about how agile can we be and how do you continuously integrate. So it's not, we're integrating every day or every few hours, right? We're just pushing it to Git, pushing it to live server, and somebody, he probably might not even know. He goes in and checks a new features might be there. So it's really about integrating every little feature that is there and having somebody use it and give you feedback.
Very, very quickly. So we were doing code pushes daily, right? So it would push out to a dev server, and then I would get in and I'd start looking at it and, was this fixed? Was that fixed? Of course, everything's being tracked, and we used Redmine for a lot of it. But that continuous feedback process really took a project that might have taken 6 months or a year and took it down to 6 weeks. We were able to create some pretty cool stuff. Keeping it agile.
Yeah. Again, it's 2 different teams, right? He has a team. He's based in Austin. I'm in Falls Church. There's a development team. So how do we actually bring together these teams with different work cultures? We are an engineering team. They're a marketing team. We are talking about continuous integration. His team wants to see the end product, right? It's really about business results.
Yeah.
So how do you actually talk about this thing that we're building and, keep each other informed as to what's happening? It's really about teamwork. So at one level, we were working as one team. It's easy to say that, but being in distributed locations, how do you pull it off?
Yeah.
And we had to work really hard. We had to always have conversation, pick up the phone,
Yeah.
and not wait. if he's not seeing anything or if I had to. So it's that kind of a teamwork that really builds collaborative products.
So, exploring why you would collaborate. Let me back up actually,
Yeah.
and I got just a very quick story. That this is kind of one of the things that we missed on in the early going was we actually had two different dev servers, and several weeks went by, and I was getting these reports of these hours that are being burned off and all this stuff, and I kept looking at the dev server, and I was not seeing anything, and there's stuff going on behind the scenes, and we're working with the API, and we're making this, I'm like, I guess there's a lot of foundational stuff, but I'm not seeing anything. And I got really frustrated with the project and kind of handed it off to one of my guys, one of my more formally trained project manager type guys, and I said, hey, I don't know what's going on with this project, but they've burned through, I don't know how many hundreds of hours, and I see nothing. And what it turns out was he dove in and he started, asking around, and it turns out they were uploading everything to the other dev server. And so there was all this code and all this stuff that needed to be reviewed, and of course they were like, well, how come he's never giving us any feedback on this code we've uploaded, and the Volacci team's non-responsive and all this stuff, and I'm like, how come they're not coding anything, yet they're billing me all these hours? It's crazy, but it was something that was that simple, and it went on for weeks. And finally what happened, the project got to where we were about ready to abandon it. Both sides were about ready to abandon the project, and Mohan called a meeting, a formal in-person, everybody had to be there kind of a meeting. And, I laid out my complaints. Look, you're burning through all these hours, all this time, this costing lots of opportunity and money and everything. And I see nothing. And so we go ahead and jump into a screen share and we open it up. And sure enough, their team goes, and then they show me their server and I go, and we all went, oh, everybody is doing what they're supposed to do. Because how many of us have been in situations when you're working with somebody else and they say that they're doing what they're supposed to do and they're not really doing it? We've all been there. And both sides thought that's what was happening. Well, that was a real learning experience, and now we have those meetings much more frequently where we're all getting on a screen share in a Google Hangout and showing each other screens. Well, here's what I see. Okay, that's great, but I don't see that. Let me show you mine. And because this, and this doesn't work, or works on this server, doesn't work on that one, whatever. So we do a lot more real-time collaboration than we used to, and it's not like continuous. It's like, I don't know, maybe 1 hour or so a week.
Yeah.
And then in between we're using Redmine and GitHub and all that kind of stuff to go back and forth. But once we got that squared away, I know what to expect. I know when I see a ticket in there, I should see this feature over here. And when I report it, I should see the fix go there. And just learning that workflow was really, really important to us.
Yeah, and once that happened, we actually had almost everyday meetings because they had to review 2 weeks of work.
Yep.
And then it was constant, everyday screen shares. And I tell you guys, that's, I think, the most important thing. If you're not in a physical location, you have to constantly do screen shares.
Yeah.
And then just say this, and also be transparent about, we did not get this done, we got this done. Here's why we did not get this done,
Right.
because we need something from the API. And him having to go and getting that API information. So once we got that squared and stabilized, now we probably have screen shares maybe once a week only. But also we have history of trusting more. So that's why we said,
Yep.
building on trust. It's really not about saying just trust each other. You really have to replenish it with good work every time.
Yeah.
Every
absolutely.
time it is depleted, you got to do better. That's how you do it.
And I think the other takeaway from that is that, I was working directly with the production team, and Mohan more or less was not out of the picture, but not really super involved on a day-to-day basis. And I should have gone to Mohan, on day 2 of week 1 of this, issue and said, hey, here's what I'm experiencing. Because he could have fixed it very, very quickly, but I really kind of had this idea somehow that he was not involved or didn't know what was going on or was too busy. I don't really know why I didn't go to Mohan and say these things, but I didn't, and that's the
Now we
bottom line.
do.
And now we do constantly. That building on that trust. So why would you collaborate? For us, this was about. It really was about building something that neither of us could have done by ourselves, right? And we at Volacci we had some great ideas for what this product could do. And then as we've gone through the production cycles, more ideas have come and more ideas have come. But we're not a development company. We don't have a team of programmers, and nor did we want to build one. And so finding a partner that we could trust that could help us develop out our product and our offering really allowed us to move forward in a way that we couldn't have otherwise.
And for us, we've had experience building products, both for ourselves and also for other companies. We do product engineering, and it was a great opportunity for us as an organization to do something in the Drupal community. We've been in the Drupal community building web applications, workflow managements, and all kinds of things. But because we've done products before, this was again a great opportunity, and also it was in the marketing automation space, which we needed it ourselves. We have a Drupal site, and wouldn't it be great to have something like this? So it's a win-win situation there.
So discovering how people collaborate. This was another kind of learning. As Mohan mentioned, we have two very different organizations, very different structures, and learning how their team works on projects, how they address things, how they collaborate to come up with solutions was very different than the way that we do it at Volacci. And learning how those styles could mesh together to create an effective solution it's part of the process. I think at Volacci we're very much more, we work in silos a lot more. We collaborate to come up with a solution, but then we work in silos to implement it. And I think at Azri it's almost the opposite. They come up with solutions. They figure things out as individuals, and they come together to work together to solve them. So we kind of had to understand that about each other, and at those points where those teams crossed is when we had to really put effort in. Well, there's a team of people over here, and they're all relying on one person at Volacci, or there's a bunch of people at Volacci that are all working on a problem, and there's one person over here who's got the solution, and trying to work through those things. It was about communication. It really was a lot of communication that had to happen to work through those.
Yeah. Also, that's at the organization level, right? But organizations are made of people, and I have a different idea as an individual of collaboration. Everybody and his idea as an individual of collaboration might be different. It's really about understanding what the other person means. Let's collaborate. When somebody says it, when I say it's like I'm married, right? I'll tell my wife, we'll do it together, which means I'm going to the mall, but I'll be on the phone while you do the shopping. That's not real, but that's my idea of actually going to shopping together, right? Her idea is I'm looking at everything and saying, oh, this looks nice. So that's how it really is, right, in real life too. So it's really understanding individuals and their perspectives on collaboration.
Yeah, I think the first time that the dev lead said, hey, can you look at this code for me? I was like, no, I can't.
So he gave a GitHub link and said, push it.
Yeah, push that out to your dev server. I was like, I don't know how to do that. Can you just, so I downloaded it in a zip file and moved it over and installed it, and I was doing this, and then I was like, can't you get your team to do that? Well, for them it was like clack clack. Okay, why can you do that? And I'm like, well, I don't know what you just clack clack, but okay, cool, just keep doing that. Every day, just do that little thing. So it was just a very different, we learned a lot about how stuff gets built.
And we keep learning.
Yeah, I learned a lot, I should say, about how stuff gets built. Communication, learning together. We kind of talked through this stuff already. Uncovering formulas that share risk and reward. So, the risks for Volacci in collaborating as opposed to just hiring somebody to build the project really was a time to market. If we were not able to work with the Azri team quickly to come up with a solution that we could push to market, we're going to miss key opportunities to get that feedback. DrupalCon, DrupalCamp Boston, even here at
Nice Camp.
OS Camp. There's a bunch of different opportunities that would have been missed. And so that time to market was critical. And anytime you're launching a product, you don't want to miss key features and the ability to show them to your market, even in some sort of rudimentary beta functionality. So that was the risk to us.
And also, I'll talk about the risk, but what we mean by uncovering is you can talk about risks and rewards when you start off, and you're going to come up with 3 or 4 things. But as you go along and the product evolves, you have to kind of uncover, okay, what are the other rewards you can have? What are the other risks each other's teams can run into? So it's really a process. It's a continuum, right? It's not that you start and that's where it ends. You have to keep looking at what's happening week on week or month on month. And also for us, what was the risk and reward? Okay, we collaborate. What if this product doesn't work? Now, what does Azri get out of it? Really? Reward perspective. Risk, the opportunity cost of it.
Yeah.
We're spending all this time on this product, which is not fully ours. It's Volacci's, but then maybe I could be doing something else.
Sure.
And figuring those things out and having conversations around that is important. And that also is about transparency, right?
Before you get into a project, of course, when you launch it, everybody's going to buy it, and there's going to be lots of money from selling the product, right? Of course, that's the way that it's going to be, right? But that's never the way that it is once the product gets out the door. It's never as fully baked as you want it to be. Not as many people are interested in it as you want it to be. The ramp is you never hockey stick first, right? It's a slow, long stretch before things really start to take off. And so, what is the reward going to be in the meantime? Before the money comes, what's the payback going to be? For us at Volacci, it was learning, how to collaborate with the Azri team. It was giving us a tool that we could really use, and we could use it on our own site and use it with our customers. So regardless of if you're purchasing our product for our product's sake, it's something that we can go and deploy. So we were getting, and it's an opportunity for us to give something back to the Drupal community. And of course, that's always on the back of our mind, or sometimes in the front of our mind, that this is a neat thing that people are going to be able to use. So there's that continuous understanding of what that value is and what it is. And at this point, we're at we've launched a good beta of the collaboration, this integration between marketing automation and Drupal. There's a lot of great things that you can do with it, but we're not seeing, there's not a new path to our door yet, right? So we're working on building that path. But the value that we've received already is great conversations. We're having a lot of conversations with companies that had not talked to us before. It's starting to build, that value is starting to build. And so it's we're seeing the slow ROI that we expected to see.
And same for us, reward-wise. A lot of people know us more all because of this. We're talking to media companies because of this. They see us as somebody who understands marketing, because that's important, because if we didn't know marketing, we couldn't really build a marketing automation product. So somebody who was looking at we are an open source company, we are not a Drupal company. Now they say, okay, these guys can do good marketing as things too. So it's a different area that opens up for us. That's a reward too.
So bringing products to the Drupal world. So for those of you that are looking to collaborate, looking to develop a new product, bringing that product to Drupal is a great way to test out a product idea. We've seen it again and again with Apple. When they would roll out a new piece of software, or when the iPod first came out, it was a Mac only product, and they were able to develop and get feedback and iterate on that product and make it better and better. And then eventually, of course, we all know the story. They rolled it out to the entire computing world. Even with the iPhone, it was a product that was tethered to a desktop or to a real computer. You couldn't use an iPhone. You couldn't activate an iPhone unless you had iTunes on a computer, and that kind of requirement has now gone away. You can go into a store and buy an iPhone and activate it and walk away and use it, never even connect it to a computer. But that limited market, Facebook is another great example of that. When it first came out, it was at Harvard, and if you weren't at Harvard, you couldn't use Facebook. And then it became a handful of other schools, and then it became higher education, and then it became what it is today, right? But having that small community where you can develop in relative safety and get that feedback from your friends is a great way to launch and start a product. And that's, I mean, that really is the Automatr story. Is our, right now we've launched into Drupal. We've done a lot of stuff at Drupal events, but the core product in Automatr can run on any platform. But we're right now the only platforms that we have customers installed on are in Drupal, but we can install it on WordPress or really anything else. It runs independently of Drupal. The integration piece that we've built really then marries Drupal to marketing automation and brings a lot of that functionality into it. And the piece that we didn't start out the collaboration moving in this direction. It was kind of the dynamic content piece was on our radar, but it wasn't like, that's not why we got into the collaboration. But after several sprints and the pieces started to come together and we started to get feedback, we were able to direct the development team to go, dynamic content is really where we want to be. And that's when we started pulling Automatr data into tokens and into rules. So right now, if you have Automatr installed, you can go in and set up a rule that will, based on marketing data, you can change the content that's being showed on the page to each individual user based on their activity or their job title or their geography or whatever.
Yeah.
So we didn't start there, but that's where we ended up. And by doing that learning process and the iterative, the agile development was really kind of what took us there.
So another thing when we talk about really the collaboration is, so he comes about it at one direction, right? We are a development team which knows different things. We understand Drupal really well, but we also know the data mining aspects of things or the visual analytics. So we as a team can bring ideas to the table and say, hey Ben, there are opportunities beyond this. I think if we can give visual analytics and if we can mine data for your companies, it's a whole different angle and a revenue stream. So that's another way of collaborating, saying when we say beyond Drupal, what else can we do? What other technologies can we integrate with? And I guess that's the quality when you choose a collaborator too, right? Instead of being very specific to one thing, is there something else that they can bring to the table in terms of ideas, in terms of passion, in terms of skill set, in terms of industries? And I think that's very important too. And we learn a lot more about marketing by this collaboration. So, that's also a reward. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the relationship is what's going to drive it. Is what's going to drive the collaboration, and what that means is that the product is not. It's not the key thing of in the whole collaboration space. It's the relationship, and the collaboration builds the relationship. Whether it's successful or not, you're building that relationship. And just because maybe the product's not successful does not necessarily mean the collaboration was not successful, because that means that then you come up and you iterate and you come up with the next idea or the next idea. So business models that make sense. Of course, in the Drupal community, we've seen lots of business models around products. Probably the most common one is let's build a Drupal distribution and give it away, and then let's sell services around that distribution. But that's not something that really made sense for Volacci because we're not a development company. Right, so we couldn't build a distribution. Even a marketing distribution would just lead to generating business that we couldn't then execute on. We would have to refer that out. So building a SaaS product that drives the need for great content, that drives the need for online marketing, is really what we were looking for. And in the collaboration, we were looking to deeply ingrain that into the way that people think about Drupal and the way people think about content in the Drupal ecosystem. Do you want to add anything to that?
No. Okay,
so business models that don't, I guess I kind of talked about that. And
yeah, and for us, this is a business model as well, right? In terms of collaborating with Volacci. What is it that we get in return? We are a for-profit organization, and what we are trying to do is get visibility, learn an industry which we have access to but get better at it. And when we've tried this before and it didn't work out. And why is that? Because we didn't have relationships. We didn't collaborate. We were vendors at that point in time. For us, it was not a good business model. For the product, it could have been a good model, but for us as a business, so there are two aspects to it, right? Business, because we are not the product owners, our business model here is benefiting through the Automatr product and actually building other services around it or other solutions around it. While Automatr itself can be successful, does that mean Azri will be successful? And that's what we needed to figure out and have conversations with Volacci team to say, we need to find a way for us to be successful as well. And how do we share that risk and reward that we talked about before?
Yeah.
And that's part of it as well.
And we're starting to see that actually already, in that we've already had a customer come to us with a specific use case and say, hey, can you guys build it to work like this? And of course we said, absolutely, yes, we can. Azri, how are we going to do that? Right? So that turns into revenue for them completely aside from the collaboration, because it's generating business for them. And of course it generates an Automatr customer or several instances of Automatr for Volacci. So yeah,
I'll take a stab at this first.
You want me to take a stab at it?
Yeah.
So the
You have
development
a
process.
question?
Yeah.
You want-
Sure. Yes. Question.
So I'm curious, how are you sharing the risk? It seems like Azri, of course, has spent an enormous amount of time developing the product. What was the risk that Volacci was taking in all this? How are you?
Right. So the reward for Volacci, I mean, apparently is obvious from where you're sitting. Volacci's getting some great integration technology, some code being written, the use of a development team for a period of time. It seems like there's, it could be one-sided. What we agreed with the Azri team was that when those opportunities came, which those opportunities always come where there's this custom use case where somebody needs it built in a certain way, that Azri would have the right of first refusal to do that work. So the investment,
What's
it's a
your
reward, absolutely.
What's your risk?
My risk
Yeah.
was really time to market. Because my risk is that Azri gets halfway into this project and gets another big, project from another company and says, sorry, we have to move that team over. And it really, for me, I had to really trust that Mohan was not going to let that happen. And there were, especially when we kind of hit that point where the trust was kind of diminished, when, I kind of felt like we're not getting their best work, we're not getting the best stuff, and we had to, as you heard, we recovered out of that, but it would have been very easy for them to say, well, we're going to shut down the project, and good luck with that. And what that would have basically put us, 3 months behind on, and we would have missed our, our ship dates for the product. So the risk was really for us that we missed ship dates, and of course, when you miss ship dates, you miss customers, you miss market opportunity. It's an enormous risk in that regard. It sounds great because hey, in a collaborative relationship, you're giving this, you're getting that, but you have to measure more than just what's my outlay today versus for partnering or not partnering, and what am I going to get. It's really looking at what's the market opportunity that you're going to realize. And can you realize that faster through partnership versus investing the energy and time and funds yourself? Does that make sense?
So I'll talk about our risk. So when my team was thinking that, hey, Volacci team is really not responsive, not giving us feedback, we're pushing out all these tickets, then we're asking ourselves, hey, we are in the social contract doing things, but maybe it's just an idea. Maybe they're not serious about it. You have those questions. So it's really about understanding that this other individual organization really wants to do it. Having that belief and trust that this is just not an idea, it's just not something that they're trying, but this is something that they really believe in and have passion to make money. And for us, understanding that, and once we understood that, we were okay with our risks. Yes, Ron.
Were you not paying them? Did you not actually have a bill with them?
So there is a dual relationship there. There's a social contract in terms of a reward perspective, but there's another agreement. So it's not, it's a collaboration. So it's not that we can charge the exact price range there. Yeah.
So we kind of felt like if we had to hammer out every term and condition, then we'd still be working on the contract.
And we'd be a vendor, right? We're not really a partner or a collaborator.
Yeah, I mean we're relying. I mean, we talked about it even today. We talk about it all the time. It's a weird thing. It's a relationship, and we're relying on the relationship that I'm looking out for Azri's best interest, and they're looking out for mine.
So it's an agreement and a social contract. Really, that's what it boils down to.
Hey, we did something similar with Ami Time and Gizrat, where they do product development, I guess, in vendors for Octave and Common.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a good question, and it's a question we ask ourselves all the time. What is this?
Trust me, I am asking Ben every day. And my team is asking. I have other partners. They're asking me too.
Yeah, what is this thing? Why is it taking so much time? Let's see. Yeah, really. And I guess assigning responsibility was understanding who's responsible for what.
Yeah. I can give an example.
And holding
there.
people to that.
When
Yeah.
he said, "Hey, Mr. Project Manager, look into this," and I'm like, "Ben, you got to look into this. It's your idea. His ideas might be different." So it's really saying, "Ben, this responsibility is yours." And Ben saying, "I'm talking to the product lead, but Mohan, it's really your responsibility to make it work." So having that capability to say, "It's you. I trust you. I rely on you. You are going to be accountable for it."
Right.
And even the product owners, right? Them actually knowing that. They actually owning that process. Today have the time. He doesn't know what architectural decisions are being made. I don't. Some of the ideas come from the dev team because they understand what can be done and what we are not thinking about.
Yeah.
So it's those kind of things again.
And even outside of that one example that we gave, holding each other's feet to the fire and saying, "Look, this is what we've got to have," and having them respond with, "Well, then you need to do this, this, and this." And believe it or not, just the ticketing system helped with that a lot. Creating a ticket for everything that needs to get done and making sure that it's assigned to the right person and checking those continuously. So every time a ticket went up, I would get notified, and as soon as I could, I would go in there and review what was done and then take screenshots. I took hundreds of screenshots. Just with arrows and circles, and this is not supposed to be like this, and mocked it up and put it back up. To the ticket system and said, "Hey, why isn't this working the way it's supposed to?" Or we tried to install it here and the whole site came down. Why is that? And them fixing that. And but there's just a continuous assignment of responsibilities.
Yeah, in terms of responsibilities, so Ben had this list of things he wanted done, and I was like, "This is not going to help, Ben. You need to come up with use cases."
Yeah.
And he said, "What are those?" So I said, "Okay, this is how." I asked the dev team to prepare the first list of use cases, where we got into Ben's head and created use cases and said, "This is how use cases are."
And then he emailed me over an email with all these use cases attached to it, and I was like, "What is this?" I started opening them up, and I was like, "Oh, hey, these are helpful," And then I was like, "Okay, I can write in a way that they understand. All right, here's what I need to have happen," and that really changed the nature of the requests.
And today, if Ben says something is not done, I asked him, "Did you write the use case properly?" That responsibility is Ben's. It's not mine, not the development team's.
And my knee-jerk reaction is, yes, of course I wrote that.
So that's really a key thing too.
So we mentioned these before. We used Redmine and GitHub. Some of you are interested in the tools. There's a dev server, a staging server, and then our production server is simply Volacci.com. We believe in eating our own dog food. So, and really, I think this is probably if you don't take anything else away from the presentation, this is the slide, and that's to set expectations early and constantly recalibrate those expectations. Set them again and again and again. And if there's a little thing that bothers you, then bring it up and talk about it and work through it, because little things turn into big things.
And for me, recalibrating expectations is something that I've learned from my previous experiences, where you say something, you expect something. We've all seen those pictures, right? Somebody wants something, they end up with a swing. So it's that kind of a thing. So it's about recalibrating those expectations. So for Ben, it's like, okay, is the product being built is one question, right? When I don't ask that question, I am asking Ben the question, are you happy with where the business is going with this for you? Because product is only a means to an end for him. I need to always know if that end is going to be achieved, if so when, and how. If my eye is not on that ball, we're going to talk shit. If we're going to talk about product, it doesn't really matter. I need to know that it's going to make money for me, it's going to make money for him, that the dev team is happy, because they have to be happy that we're building something that's really good. So it's not only setting expectations or recalibrating them between Ben and I or Volacci and Azri, but with the dev team as well. At DrupalCon, they were working 3 days straight out. It's just because we recalibrated those expectations with them, saying, here's the opportunity. Here's what it is going to be. And then at NiceCamp, we needed dynamic content because there would be media houses there. They worked their asses off just to get that. So these are the kind of things we're talking about.
So I think that's our last,
Yeah.
So that's the end of the presentation. And it may seem like we figured this out, but I feel like we're like at the very beginning of our collaboration.
Because we don't know where the product is going to end up, really, which direction it's going to take. And when we talked about Drupal and beyond, the beyond is unknown at this time.
Yeah.
Really. So yes.
So, ready to go build a product?
So what does your product do, like in all, and how do you sell it?
BOF at 3.
Yeah. So right after this, we're having a BOF right here. So don't go anywhere, and I'll show it off and show you what it does. Our product is a marketing automation tool called Automatr, and if you're familiar with marketing automation, basically it takes marketing tasks that need to be repeated again and again, and it automates them. It makes them easy for a marketing department to do a lot of different things, to build campaigns, to send out emails, to track what people are doing on a site, to connect those people over to the sales team when they're ready to buy, or when they're ready for that that more personal interaction with the company. And so there's a lot of different pieces to marketing automation. What we worked on together was to take that marketing automation framework, which really Drupal was a one-way street into the marketing automation tool. So all this data was being gathered, but it was not really being used to affect the Drupal website, right? So the Drupal website was whatever it is, and the marketing person can change and work on that. But really, there's all this data over in the marketing automation side where you can send out emails and you can do social media and a number of different things, but you're not really communicating back to Drupal or affecting the way that the Drupal site is configured. And that's what we wanted. We wanted a Drupal website admin to be able to go log in, or marketing person log into their Drupal site, to be able to see, here's all of the people that have been on the site, here's what they visited, here's what they did. You can send an email to those individual people, and that email is tracked. So if they click on that email, you know if it's opened, if it was received, if it was opened, if they clicked on a link and come back to your site, all that stuff is tracked through. All things that you can kind of do a little bit of it with Drupal, but you can't really do it to the extent that most of our customers need to do it. We're tracking every anonymous user. And we know exactly what everybody does on the site. And when somebody is known, we tie that back to their records. And there's a lot of pretty complex things. But then the dynamic content side of things is, okay, somebody came into my site from a Google search and they downloaded a white paper. We know that their title is marketing. They're the director of marketing. So next time they come into the site, I want to show them this white paper that we've created specifically for marketing people who use Drupal. To explain or to give them ammunition or whatever it is on why Drupal is a great platform for marketing. Well, now when that person comes back in, instead of just treating them like, oh hey, you're a new user, you're anonymous, here you go, here's our site. There are pieces and places on the site where that content is dynamic or adaptive, and it changes based on who that person is, what their title is, where they're from, how many times they've visited. I mean, really any kind of criteria that we can gather, and there are, I think, something like 300 different pieces of information that we gather about people who visit our site. We can then use any of that information to dynamically change the site, their geography. So one of the things that we're building out right now is every time we go to an event, to a show, we'll go and create a block that says, hey, we're going to be in your neighborhood, come by and see us at such and such event. And it's in a block, and it only shows up to people that are in that state or that city on our site. And then the more you work with it, the more you use it, the more and more you can ideas that you can come up with that you would use dynamic content. In e-commerce, you purchase this product, next time you come in, hey, here's 27 other products you might want to buy. Well, that's Amazon's been doing it forever, we're all kind of used to it. But what about in a Drupal implementation? What about in a in a B2B context? What could you do with that? So that's what we wanted to build, and that's what the Azri team built for us. Does that make sense? Yeah. Other questions?
Yes, going back to this whole virtual thing. Did you work out, so you have an ongoing revenue stream from a service connected to the model,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And is Azri going to get a percentage of that? Do you guys work that out, or is there only getting the customer?
The question was, we have an ongoing stream of revenue coming from Automatr. Does Azri get a piece of that, or does that only come from, do you only get financial reward from any custom work? So that question's up in the air, to be honest.
We've discussed it a few times.
Yep.
It really depends on the volume, I guess. At this time, if I expect that right now I need something, it's not going to happen, and I know that. What we said is, once this product takes off, we will revisit this. We will revisit and create an agreement. At this time, there's really not much, right? It's just starting off. So, but we will get there, and that's the roadmap.
If it turns into, hey, every third installation is a custom work, and we're sending $1 million a year to Azri, well, this was a fantastic investment for them to do this collaboration and this work up front for us. If it turns out there's very little customization that ever gets requested, well, then that's when we revisit and we come up with, we're tracking the hours that were invested and the time that's put into it, and those kind of things, and that's when we revisit and go, okay, what's a fair payment for the work that's being done?
And another way to look at it is, there are parts that we can build, which we can license out, and add a value to what Volacci Automatr does. So we can get a cut out of that and give something back to them.
Yeah.
So we can piggyback on each other there.
So,
There was another question here.
Yeah, I guess I half raised my hand, but I was going to ask. So a lot of Drupal companies are consulting shops mostly, right? Where they're doing hourly, billing clients hourly, and I think a lot of them have these dreams of like maybe doing a product or start working on it sometimes, but it always kind of goes on the back burner because they don't, they make guaranteed immediate money from their client work, and the product is kind of a dream for the future. They don't make money right away. Do you have any tips on like how to kind of start making a transition like that if you are mostly doing consulting work but want to dabble in products?
I've done we do a lot of consulting and work, right? But we also build products. I have another product which is not Drupal. Right now there's an IEEE conference going on. I have pretty much a conference management platform, which is a product that I've done by myself with my team. So I have that background. I know the risks and rewards of it. So I think it's really about mindset. I have 3 products out there in the market at different stages right now. This is another collaboration which is very promising in the Drupal community for me. That's how I look at it. So I know there's a revenue stream. I'm not going to mix that up. So there's a team which does that, and this is something that we're saying at a strategic level, right? You have to make that investment in time, effort, opportunity, and say it's okay. And that's a strategic decision at a C level that you have to make. That's what this is for us.
I really think if you,
I think,
Okay, we're out of time.
So the next session is yours, right?
Thank you.
Conversation. Are you in the same room?
Well, I scheduled a BOF, I thought, for this room. I think the next thing here is a BOF, right?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe I wrote it on the wrong.
There's been